Hi there. It's Monday, the 29th of January 2024. I'm going to discuss Nelson Chamisa's resignation as the leader of the main opposition party in Zimbabwe, the Citizen Coalition for Change, popularly known by the acronym CCC. On Thursday, the 25th of January 2024, Nelson Chamisa tendered his resignation as leader of the main opposition party, the CCC. He went on to declare in a statement posted on the social media platform X that he was resigning because of the dirty tricks employed by the ruling party in collusion with the courts, and then infiltration of the CCC party by agents from the ZANU-PF CC's adversaries. The CCC party has been a formidable opposition to ZANU-PF, and with its leader gone, there seems to be no opposition to talk of. Nelson Chamisa went on to clarify his position in a 13-page statement. It's a chunky document, so I will concentrate on what I consider to be the main issues. Nelson Chamisa, the first reason he has cited is he has stated that on the just concluded 2023 election, there was intimidation of voters by the shadowy organization FARS, which stands for Forever Associates. And then he alleges that FARS sponsored and fielded double candidates in the 2023 election just to confuse the voters. And then he added that FARS disseminated propaganda posters designed to mislead voters. The second reason Nelson Chamisa has adduced is that there was violence in the 2023 election, both of the physical kind and more nuanced kind of psychological violence. Then the third reason Nelson Chamisa has given is that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission refused to effect political, constitutional, and electoral reforms. After his resignation, Nelson Chamisa gave an interview to a South African news organization, and this is what he had to say.
From yet another party you started.
Well, what you do is that when you realize that your cattle pen has been invaded by cattle rustlers, you just need to walk away with your cattle to secure them. I'm not walking away from the citizens of Zimbabwe. I'm walking away from a poisoned chalice. There are many other wells. There are many other sources of water. There are many other vehicles and platforms that could be and should be used. So we are taking a new way, a fresh approach, a new start. In fact, the future has just begun.
Okay, we're going to talk about that future in a moment. The reasons, just briefly, what is it that made you take this extraordinary step?
Indeed, it's a very drastic measure against our own will and against our own intention. But because we have seen that Mr. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF are now abusing institutions of the state, in particular Parliament, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and in some circumstances, even our own courts, because they are now contaminating our courts with their politics. That has necessitated what we are doing. We don't want to be forced into a dance, dancing to the tune of a dictatorship, dancing to the tune of Mr. Mnangagwa, recalling our members of parliament. After recalling those members of parliament, stopping them and barring them from then participating, because he knows that in the arena of elections, he has no support. Just as he was rejected on the 23rd of August 2023 election, they want to continue to ward off that rejection by avoiding the votes and the voters.
Yeah.
So because of that, we have to make sure that we make a bold stand, a bold move. As you know, leaders must take a stand. And we've taken that stand to say, how do we break that new ground? How do we then make sure that, although the past is broken, how do we make sure that we bring in a future that is beautifully woven? And to do so, We are going to have new tactics, new approaches, because we have realized the leopard cannot change and is not changing its spots.
We've got quite a bit to get through, Mr. Chamisa. Can I ask you to keep it short, given the time constraints? You are attributing what is happening in the Triple C to President Mnangagwa. But there is an individual here. His name is Sengezo Chabangu. Who is he, and what is his role within the Triple C?
That's why I said I think Mr. Mnangagwa is the best person to answer that question, because that is his person.
But this person is said to be the Secretary General of your party, the Triple C.
Who is saying that? It is Mr. Mnangagwa and his party.
How did Mr. Chabangu get into the Triple C in the first place? Because he is the one that, as I read the reports, recalled these MPs saying that they are no longer members of the Triple C.
Just to help you and the audience here, Chloe, for you to be recalled, there has to be the consent and assent of the Speaker of Parliament, of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and of course, in cases where there's a dispute, endorsement by the courts. Now, because these institutions are, to a greater extent, connected to Mr. Mnangagwa, they are the ones that have accepted Mr. Chabangu. So it's not a Triple C matter. It's not a Triple C issue or a citizens of Zimbabwe issue. It's a Mr. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF issue. It is.
Yes, there you have it. That's Nelson Chamisa clarifying his position. Then on the 26th of January 2024, Fadzai Mahere, in solidarity with Nelson Chamisa, announced their own resignation from the Triple C party, and from her role as MP representing Mount Pleasant, Mahere went on to emphasize that the CC she joined was what she called a focus, had a focus on a battle of ideas and policy. And she added that the ZANU-PF regime was waging what she referred to as an unconstitutional onslaught on the will of the people. And Mahere further cited what she referred to as widespread abuse of state institutions, which have handed over all levers of control of the Triple C party to this imposter. By that, she was referring to Sengezo Chabangu. Mahere added that the assault on the will of the people, and then the tainted state of parliament, coupled with other abuses and breaches of parliamentary privilege, and she added that these were her reasons that she had resigned in solidarity with Nelson Chamisa. But it has to be taken into context that Mahere has resigned, yes, but one has to take into account that Mahere is a qualified and practicing lawyer, and she additionally teaches law at the University of Zimbabwe. So she can afford to resign. But what about those other MPs whose Triple C membership and their status as MPs in Parliament is their only source of financial security? Some sources have stated that 7 MPs have resigned in solidarity with Chamisa and Mahere, but I have not actually been able to ascertain those or corroborate those that is the case. So it is difficult to say any other MPs, to see any other MPs following Mahere's lead. So what are these recalls both Chamisa and Mahere are talking about? Chabangu's background is a murky one, and both Chamisa and Mahere have referred to him as a man who emerged from nowhere and started claiming to be Secretary General of the Triple C party. Nelson Chamisa, in his resignation, labeled Chabangu as not known to the leadership of the Triple C and an imposter. Shabangu started his first wave of recalls on the 10th of November. Shabangu wrote to the Senate President Mabel Chinomona and recalled 5 senators. Then on the 14th of November, Shabangu recalled 13 MPs and 9 senators, and then to the Triple C party contested these recalls and applied to the High Court. And then to add insult to injury, on the 7th of December, Justice Katillo of the High Court ruled that the recalled 22 MPs could not stand for re-election. And ZANU-PF, of course, went on to contest those seats without any opposition. Then it was to be taken into account that Justice Katillo's judgment was passed in the middle of the night, with the election scheduled for the 8th of December. One would want to question, how did the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission managed to print the ballot papers without the names of the Triple C candidates if they had only something like 6 hours between the High Court judgment and then polls opening for voting? How did they know this was going to happen? There seems to be some collusion there, the collusion between the court and the ruling party to actually sort of get the result they wanted. It is clear that for all to see that ZANU-PF is aiming for a supermajority, that is 2/3 of MPs in parliament, and once it has got that sort of majority, it can ram through revisions to the constitution and institute a one-party state. And then if so, Chamisa is justified in resigning, and if Chamisa were to continue under these conditions, he would effectively be colluding in the destruction of his own party and collude in the implementation of one-party dictatorship. Chamisa himself has alluded to this scenario in his resignation statement, declaring that the original CC idea has, however, been contaminated, bastardized, hijacked by ZANU-PF through the abuse of state institutions. He added that the Triple C has now been rendered an extension of and been taken over by ZANU-PF. Triple C has, to all intents and purposes, been criminally handed over to ZANU-PF. Then the man himself, who has actually brought this crisis, Shabangu, stated that he has been disappointed by Chamisa's resignation. You can listen to what he has to say.
For Triple C, Mr. Sengizo Shabangu, your president, Nelson Chamisa, has resigned and left the party. What's next for you and your party?
Well, we are not angry. We are just disappointed that the leader decided to walk away without really giving an indication, giving a signal that he was going to walk away. But we wish him well. We know that he's gifted in preaching. We hope that he's going to open a church and preach the gospel of God, because politics and church, those are two different things. So we hope that he's going to endeavor his gifted ability in that arena. So we wish him well. But the party is going to be intact. The party is going to rejuvenate the party, because we are going back to the basics. We are reconfiguring the party. We are formalizing the structures. We will be preparing for the Congress. So this, in a way, is going to build a sense of ownership within the membership at large.
You said you're following the 2019 Congress. So who takes over the leadership of Triple C now?
The collective leadership will sit down and is going to continue sitting down, consulting, engaging, and making appropriate decisions. So we expect that they will announce and recommend who should lead in this on interim basis before we go to Congress. So we have got capable women, we've got capable men, tried and tested, who can really fill the vacuum. So the party is still intact, and I've got no doubt at the back of my mind that we are going to get stronger.
We are seeing tweets and social media, some of the members of parliament and senators saying they are with the Chamisa and they are also leaving Triple C. Have we heard anything from them?
Yes, we are reading it from the media, but we are a party. We don't, if these members of parliament or members of the council, councillors in various areas, when they wanted to be the candidates, they never went to the media, that they sought to be the candidates in the media. They applied in the party and they went through the accreditation, security check, all the processes were done in the party. So we expect them, if they want to walk away, where the destiny is unknown, so we are not going to bar them, we are not going to stop them. So we expect that they tender their resignation formally within the party, or they tender their resignation if they are members of parliament, before the Speaker of Parliament, or before the President of the Senate if they are senators, or in various council countrywide. So until that happens, we have not have anyone who has left the Triple C, and we want to encourage them that the party is still there. It doesn't mean that if the leader decides to walk away, then the party doesn't exist anymore. So we encourage them to occupy the space, to keep the space, the fighting zone, and move forward. We will protect them and move forward and try and give the people of Zimbabwe another chance in terms of development, in terms of service delivery. These are the things that the people of Zimbabwe deserve, than to walk away and leave the people of Zimbabwe in the darkness.
What happens? Did you have any assets as a Triple C? Do you have any funds? What happens to all those assets, seeing that the party is dismantling?
The legal team is consolidating. I'm sure they're going to come up with the documentation, the necessary steps that we're going to take. But we hope that we're going to have an amicable resolution with the actual president. And if there is no cooperation at all, then the legal team is going to advise us to perhaps take the legal action. But I don't think we will arrive at that level, because we believe that everything that was bought, or anything that was procured or attained under the name of the Triple C should belong to the Triple C as a message.
So there you have it. That's Shabangu there stating tongue-in-cheek that Chamisa is a gifted preacher and is going to open a church and do what he does best, that is preaching. Then he has stated that he is going to reconfigure the party, and yeah, that's Shabangu on there. And there are conspiracy theories flying around on why Chamisa has actually resigned rather than what he himself has actually stated. There is one analyst. Whose name I could not actually grasp. There was I could not actually get his name. I will actually just put in. You can hear for yourself what he has to
that
say.
Is happening is meant to make sure that Mnangagwa gets a second term, because there was an arrangement that was done which involved Charumbira, one Utaunashe, and Mtendi. They went to convince the leadership of the main opposition to say, we have been under the Zezuru dominance for 37 years. Why would you want to get one of your own out of the office after they've just been there for 5 years? This whole drama that is happening is meant to make sure that Mnangagwa gets a second term. Because there was an arrangement that was done which involved Charumbira, Wanu Taunashe, and Mtendi. They went to convince the leadership of the main opposition to say, we have been under the Zezuru dominance for 37 years. Why did you want to get one of your own out of the office after they'd just been there for 5 years?
So there we are. That's the analyst whose name I could not actually ascertain. So it has to be taken into context that the Karanga hypothesis that states that Chamisa has went into an arrangement and he has resigned simply to pave way for a second term for Mnangagwa. I find this incredible. So one has to actually to get this idea that both Mnangagwa and Chamisa are from Masvingo and are from the Karanga ethnic group. The regionalist or ethnic emphasis on the argument is that for the past 37 years, it was the Zezurus who have been in power. And then Chamisa was approached by Karanga elders, and the names like Fortune Charumbira have been dropped, and as evidence for this conspiracy says that Fortune Charumbira, as I have mentioned, president of the Chiefs Council. Then the second person who mediated was Andrew Taunashe. That's Andrew Taunashe on there. And then you have Andrew Taunashe is head of the Family of God churches. And then the third person is Bishop Samuel Mtendi. I find this theory, it lacks any credibility at all. By picking prominent people from Masvingo who are supposed to have made an arrangement simply because they are prominent, this does not make sense at all. It is simply taking a tribalist approach to politics. And so as far back as 2022, Bishop Mtendi has been vociferous in his criticism of ZANU-PF and Mnangagwa, and he has been urging Mnangagwa to play fair in the elections. So I find it very difficult to believe this theory, because Mtendi cannot be criticizing Mnangagwa at the same time and then mediating for him to stay in power. Yeah, and then you have Arthur Mtambara. Arthur Mtambara has come up with his own analysis on why Nelson Chamisa has resigned, and basically he says Nelson Chamisa is incompetent. You just hear for yourself.
With hindsight, I'm not surprised, because the ability is very minimal there. The competence is very minimal there. He's not a very able man. In fact, in many fronts, there's one, the failure to take advantage of the opportunity presented by the coup, and the issue of ethnicity and tribalism. You know, people don't like to use it, tribalism. We went through the Zulu tribalism in this country for 37 years, where Mjuru and Mugabe were running this as a Zulu hegemony. You'd expect someone coming in to do something different. We also went through Gukurahundi anyway, forget that. So you'd expect a leader who learns from history to say, this is it.
Yeah, there is Mutambara there. So why Mutambara says this is anyone's guess. It is not clear what the ability Mutambara refers to. Is it ability of the academic variety, or is it ability as talking of attributes of a leader of the opposition? What sort of ability is that? So I would think a leader of the opposition has to be judged by the results he produces in an atmosphere dominated by fear, intimidation, and violence. Nelson Chamisa managed to got a 44% of the votes in the presidential election that has just the August 23 presidential election. And that election has been written off by SADC and the AU as a sham. And so, yes, the CCC has contested, and the result of the election are known. Most impartial observers say the 52.6 ZANU-PF claims for its candidate was a cooked result. It is difficult to take Mutambara at his word. Let's look at the CCC's performance in the National Assembly. Out of the 280 seats contested, CCC got 103. Then compared to ZANU-PF's 103 seats, compared to ZANU-PF's 177. That is 40.146% of the vote. And then in the Senate, out of the 60 seats which were up for contest, CCC won 127 against ZANU-PF's 33. So that's CCC got 45% of the vote. So I find Mutambara's claim is based on performance, and I think he did. CCC under the leadership of Nelson Chamisa did well. We all know the tactics employed by the ZANU-PF regime. So to me, this was a stellar performance. Then if the allegations are based on academics, I think, well, Chamisa is a lawyer by training, so Mutambara's claims are baseless, and I would think Mutambara wants to lead the opposition himself, and his commentary can safely be dismissed as sour grapes. So Mutambara, alongside the analyst I have discussed above, also complains of the regional bias in the CCC. I should think that a man of Mutambara's caliber would want all Zimbabweans to be able to participate in civic and political life in Zimbabwe without focusing in which region they come from or which language they speak. It is granted that CCC is now a diminished party compared to, say, the MDC of 2013, but that can be attributed to the authoritarianism in flowing from the ruling party's attempts to effectively dismantle a viable opposition and the threat it poses to the survival of ZANU-PF as a political party. Some critics have suggested that from its inception, there are a couple of shortcomings to the CCC. One, it has been cited that a lack of conventional structures, and then a controversial selection of internal candidates, and then operating without any founding documents. And well, I would actually acknowledge that this is a valid sort of criticism against the CCC. In the absence of established structures to show who is who in the party, it was only a matter of time before a character like Shawangu caused havoc within the party. Such criticism has some merits. Besides Chamisa and his spokesman, people would struggle to name the CC hierarchy. Granted, Nelson Chamisa is a charismatic leader, but some critics have also suggested that Chamisa is obsessed with big man style of leadership, in the same style as people like the late Robert Mugabe. Such strengths, or shall we call them flaws, has been Chamisa's downfall, and the implications for the diminished opposition, the decimated opposition, it will actually make it easier for ZANU-PF to get, by hook or crook, the two-thirds majority it craves. For the ordinary Zimbabwean, this does not augur well this will mean a return to one-party rule and consolidation of dictatorship. The ruling party is likely to revise the constitution and so do away with the checks and balances impeding their use of untrammeled power. They are seeking to do away with the little freedoms left, both freedoms of the press and, say, freedoms of association, and most importantly, the right as well as the freedom to criticize the government. Currently, say for instance, currently judges are appointed by the Judicial Services Commission, and as Emerson Mnangagwa, the president, has long cherished the idea of an imperial presidency with as little checks on the president's power as possible. And so he seeks, so one would safely conclude that ZANU-PF is going to revise the constitution and is going to actually give powers to the president to handpick from magistrates to the justices sitting on the Supreme Court bench. Like I have said elsewhere, a government with no opposition and no critics threatens the very foundational order of the state. The rights enumerated within the constitution become cosmetic, and with a captured judiciary selectively applying the law, the country is simply reduced to little more than a Bantustan. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to these recordings. If you like what I've just discussed, please subscribe so I can go on to produce more content like this. Thank you. Bye.